Like the way that my perspective has totally changed. It's such a blessing. Like, it is crazy. And if you know, you know. I started off as a hard-headed, vain, idolatrous, self-centered, and competitive, casual Christian. I tried to mix a lot of new age world views, very worldly things with God. I tried to do it all in one, but I ended up just being broken and miserable and absolutely hopeless. So hi everybody. I haven't made a video in a long time and I feel very weird. I feel like almost embarrassed, even though I shouldn't, but whatever. So if you don't know me, my name is Alyssa and I'm gonna share my full testimony with you if you care to listen. So it's pretty lengthy, so what I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna go through the bullet point version first, and then I'm gonna get into the details. So if you want to be spared of all the details, just listen to the first part. So I grew up in a Christian household, always been a Christian, was in church weekly. I went to summer Bible camps, always believed that Jesus is God, and I never really veered from that. But as I got older, throughout high school and then college, I started getting into very worldly things. I started drinking a lot, partying a lot. Then I moved to LA, where I started partying even harder, started doing drugs, went to raves, went through a promiscuous phase, got into new age, tarot, horoscopes, all that kind of stuff, had a mental breakdown, was still being very promiscuous, and I also had like this crazy supernatural experience while I was on drugs. I saw Jesus, and then like 2 years later I finally decided to give my life to Christ, like for real, and now we are here. Now that we got the short version out of the way, let's get to the long version. I'll do timestamps and stuff, so if you are antsy, you just want to skip ahead, I'll help you out, okay? So I grew up in a Christian household. Both my mom and dad's side of the family were very much involved in the church. My mom was a pastor's kid, and then my dad grew up Southern Baptist. Why can't I talk? Southern Baptist. We regularly went to church. Every Sunday we would go as a family. I did this thing called missionettes. I was not allowed for some reason to do Girl Scouts or brownies. I really wanted to. I would like beg my mom, like, please, I want to do brownies, I want to do Girl Scouts, but she wouldn't let me. So I did missionettes instead. Every Wednesday I was in church going to missionettes, and then on Sundays I would be in church service with my family. And then on top of that, every summer I went to a Bible camp. So the foundation was there. Like, I never believed anything else. I never believed in any other God or any other belief system. I always believed in God, and I always believed in Jesus. I always believed he is who he said he is. But with that said, I was very much a casual Christian. Okay, you like that term? I got it from Marcus Rogers. I think it's great. A casual Christian. That's exactly what I was. And no offense to my family or my immediate family, but that's what we were. We were just casually Christian. We were very much double-minded. I listened to worship music, like my family and I, we would listen to worship music on one hand and be in church on one hand, but then on the other hand, like I was listening to like Britney Spears and Spice Girls and Christina Aguilera, and I was watching things on TV that probably shouldn't have been watching as a Christian child. I kind of grew up in this casually Christian environment. I just thought it was normal to be what I would now call double-minded. I thought just casually believing in Jesus was like a very normal thing. Pursuing God any further never crossed my mind. So now I'm gonna shift into like my high school and college years. So when I got into high school, I didn't go to church as much as I used to. I definitely was not doing missionettes anymore. On a rare occasion, I might go to church on a Sunday, but I was so busy with cheer. I was a cheerleader all 4 years, and I let that take up a big portion of my time. So I just wasn't as concerned with going to church because cheer was such a big deal to me, and even just like being in school and different activities, hanging out with friends, all that kind of stuff, church ended up taking the back burner, even though I still believed in God and I would pray here and there and consider myself a Christian. My junior year, this was like 2007, my parents got divorced, and that was a big deal. Well, yeah, it was like a big deal. It caused a big rift in the family, so that was another reason why we all stopped regularly going to church. After that, especially, it became very sporadic that we would go to church. Again, I never stopped believing in God, but I didn't read my Bible. Like, I would pray here and there if I was going through something, but didn't read my Bible, like, at all. My grandma on my mom's side, she was like the spiritual glue that held my family together. Not necessarily like my immediate family, but like my cousins, my grandma, my aunt, all of us, even though like there was a lot going on that was kind of trying to pull us apart, she was very much devoted to the Lord. Like, she was for real. She was serious about her walk and her relationship with God. So luckily, well, not luckily, thank God we had her, because she was like a glue that was just barely keeping us all together. So in high school, I personally wasn't like a partier, a big drinker. I was like a goody two shoes. All of my friends were, though. Like, they like to have fun and I like to sit and watch. I was too scared. Even though like I wasn't super serious about God, at the same time, like, I knew right from wrong, and I knew like drinking, getting drunk, like, oh, I shouldn't do that, right? So I didn't do it. I just let them do it, and then I would watch. I think I drank maybe 2 to 3 times in that whole 4-year period, and I'm pretty sure one of the times I drank like a Mike's Hard lemonade. So if you get like what my vibe was, I wasn't a drinker. Also, I had never had a boyfriend all throughout high school. All my friends always did. They always had boys chasing after them, and I didn't. I was the biggest third wheeler. Fast forward to college, that's when a lot of things changed for me. I went buck wild, okay? Started drinking a lot, like a lot. I joined a sorority, which, good and bad, okay? It was great in a way because I was able to make a lot of friends and I did have a lot of fun, but bad in the fact that it like wasn't a very good influence on me. As I'm sure you know, there is so much drinking and partying when it comes to Greek life, and that's exactly what I did, okay? Got blackout drunk a lot. Okay, now remember how I mentioned I'm double-minded, not going to church anymore. I haven't fully read the Bible, so in my mind, I'm justifying all of my bad behavior. I would make excuses to myself because sometimes I would feel conviction about the things that I was doing, but I would just excuse it away. You know, I would use the usual, only God can judge me. Who are you to judge? Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Okay? That was me, okay? Been there, done that. Like, that was my mentality. And also, this was such a stupid way of justifying it, but in my mind, I would justify me getting drunk, like blackout drunk, by, well, I mean, I'm not an alcoholic. I mean, yeah, I get drunk, but like, I can stop anytime that I want. So it's fine. I can still be a Christian and get drunk. Again, I would feel conviction sometimes about my actions, but I would just push it away, try to like black it out of my head, and again, just make excuse after excuse. At this point, personally, I'm just a total mess. Like, I gossiped all the time. Like, I would viciously gossip about people. Like, it was really bad. Anytime somebody would talk about another person, especially if it was like a girl in the sorority, I loved it. I loved hearing about juicy gossip and participating and just being mean. I was jealous, I held grudges, I was bitter and resentful, lustful, prideful, all the things. Just no good, okay? I mean, I was like nice enough, but on the inside, just terrible. Every once in a while, I would have like a mental breakdown, like quarterly, I would have a mental breakdown and just cry. And I would read like Psalm 23, you know. I wouldn't actually read the Bible, but I would just go to like Psalm 23 or something just to like make myself feel better. Deep down, I knew that like turning to God and like living my life the right way a Christian should, I knew that was the answer. But I loved partying and drinking and sinning way more than I loved God at that point. And I didn't want to let that go, because even though what I was doing like was wrong, I was having so much fun. And even if I had a moment of weakness or had a moment where I'm like having this breakdown, that wasn't enough for me yet to completely turn my life around. So this next part is a little heavy. I'm gonna be, or try to be like delicate in how I say this. There was one part or point, it was like my junior year of college, and I was at a Greek week party, and it was like a big party, one of the frats there would have this party during Greek week every year. Like, this is what they were known for, and I was so excited to go. Like, it's gonna be awesome. And of course I got super drunk, and it wasn't until years later, honestly, until just a few years ago, that I had the realization, or like a shift in perspective, to where I could know that I was like violated. For years I had blamed myself, and I thought that like, well, it was my fault, all my fault, and I had never experienced anything like that. Remember, like, I'm coming from this like goody two-shoes, like kind of Christian upbringing. Even though I was like a casual Christian, I still had this foundation of Christianity, and I knew right from wrong in like the major areas of life. And I had always told myself and other people around me, like, when I get married, like, my wedding dress is gonna be white. I never ever had it in my head that I would ever have an encounter like this. I had never done anything with guys, because again, remember, all throughout high school and throughout college, never had a boyfriend. So for this to happen, like, was a very big deal for me. The night that it happened, I was completely in shock. And the reason why I blamed myself for this happening was because in the moment, I never said no, and I never said stop, and I never tried to fight back. But I was frozen. Like, I literally couldn't speak. I tried to talk, but words wouldn't come out. And I tried to move, but I couldn't. My body felt completely paralyzed. And I believe that the Holy Spirit spoke to me. This is like 2020. I definitely pushed this out of my head for a long time, but like around in 2020, brought it back to my remembrance and showed me that like, this wasn't totally your fault. Like, you were in fact violated. Like, that's what the situation was. And because I'd hated myself for a very long time and blamed myself and felt so much shame around this situation. So the night that happened, I like hysterically cried myself to sleep, and I was just praying, asking God, like, please forgive me. I can't believe this happened. I was so angry with myself, and for the next few days I just like felt numb and so embarrassed. I'm better now, but that was a very, very big thing that just opened another door to more and more sin that I walked right through. Okay, now we are going to fast forward a little bit to life after college and me moving to LA. So at this point, this is around like 2012. I'm still drinking a lot, still partying, going out to bars and clubs and whatnot. But upon moving to LA, we started doing drugs. Okay, pills, lots of pills. So me and one of my best friends from back home, we both moved to LA around the same time, and we lived together, and we were going out a lot, drinking a lot, and we both started doing a lot of like ecstasy and Molly. I mean, they're like the same thing, just different forms. So, but whatever we could get our hands on, that's what we would do. And we were going to clubs and raves, like, and I loved that. I've always loved house music. But like when I was younger, living in Washington, I never went to any of those kind of events, and it wasn't until I moved to LA and had more access to those kind of things that I started like taking full advantage of it. And I was going out multiple times every week. So this for me was like the beginning of like a hoe-ish phase. I am not gonna call it a full-blown hoe phase, because I wasn't like the Village Bicycle. Okay, don't think that. But by my standard, remember, little Christian Alyssa in missionettes, by that girl's standard, I was going through, especially after what happened to me in college. I just had this mindset. I don't remember if I was conscious of it or not, but I just had this mindset of like, well, I'm already tainted, like, who cares about my body? Me wearing a white wedding dress at my future wedding doesn't matter anymore because I'm tainted, so whatever. Like, that was literally how I thought about it. And again, I knew sex before marriage was wrong, but I excused it away. I tried to find loopholes, and I thought that like my intention behind it would supersede God's word, which is just stupid. But when you are deceived And when you haven't read the word for yourself, that's the kind of thing that you'll get yourself into. At this point, like, I'm being so reckless. I'm broke in more ways than one. Broke spiritually, mentally, emotionally, but also like financially broke. Like, I don't know how I survived. I was not making a lot of money at all. I think I made like $14 an hour at my job, which for LA, like, good luck. Like, it's expensive here. Okay, it's very expensive here, and I never had enough money to go around, and so that caused me so much stress. Every month when I had to pay my bills, I would freak out. So I was just in a very, very bad space. I ended up getting fired from my job, which caused me more stress, and then I ended up having to move to the desert, like Palm Springs area, with my mom, and that was like a bittersweet moment. It was bitter because I did not want to leave LA, but sweet at the same time because I felt like it was a rescue. Like, I was at rock bottom. I was miserable. I was suicidal. I had no money. It was a really, really bad time for me. So it actually came at a good time that I got fired and needed to move out of my overly expensive apartment, because I was able to get somewhat of like a break. Some of the positives were I was able to move in with my mom. I didn't have to pay for rent, so that was really nice. And then I ended up getting a job, like an office job out there, and I was making better money, and just having that like stability and then having my mom around like that really did help me. But I was still an awful person. I was still very selfish. I was just doing whatever I wanted to, doing stuff on my own terms and not acknowledging God at all. Still calling myself a Christian. I still believed in God, okay, but the fruit in my life was not good. So I'm still going to raves and clubs at this point, but instead of conveniently being in LA, I have to drive myself 2 hours from the desert to LA to go. That is how committed I was to being sinful and partying and doing drugs and all that. Like, it's so sad. Now, like, when I say it out loud and I think about it, I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Like, what was I thinking? And now that I have a job or making a little bit more money, it felt good initially, but I was recklessly spending my money, and eventually that did catch up with me. Like, I didn't have like friends or like people that I knew my age when I was living out in the desert. So at this point, like, I'm just like chasing guys. Like, I'm bored and I'm like desperate for like a boyfriend. I just want something, and so I'm just like chasing after dudes. And it was like DJs in particular that I was trying to go after, because at this point I'm just very, very involved in the whole EDM world. It's very sad. So I loved house music. Well, I mean, I still do like house. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I still like house music. But you know, at the time, loved house music, loved that whole culture. So I'm like going on to different DJ pages, like any like house DJ that I liked, messaging, liking photos, just being very tacky and embarrassing. But at the time, I didn't care because I wanted to get what I wanted. So one of them actually messaged me back, okay? And we ended up talking and having like a situationship for like about a year. Deep down, though, I knew he didn't really like me. Like, I always knew. I just didn't want to admit it to myself. I tried to force the situation and just think about the like what ifs and like what it could be, rather than facing the ugly and very uncomfortable truth. And I wasted so much time and money going back and forth between the desert and LA so I could see him. He never made an effort once to come see me, but trust and believe I'll be whipping on the 10, 2 hours there, 2 hours back to see this dude who just did not care at all. And I take responsibility for my stupidity and my actions. He didn't care. So obviously I'm heavily engaging in sexual sin, making excuses, just tuning out or trying to push away conviction. And I'm just completely deluded, thinking, okay, no, like, he really does like me because like he does this and he said that. So I'm editing this video right now and I completely forgot to mention a key part of this story. This guy, this DJ that I was like just delusional about, he ghosted me. Yeah, after a year of speaking, going back and forth, seeing each other, a whole year, ghosted me, never heard from him again. Yeah, so that was rough, and I was like just devastated and so heartbroken, and that did not help my mental or emotional place that I was in. It was really bad, and I can't believe I forgot to mention that, but yeah, that was key. He ghosted me. Around the same time too, I'm like heavy into like this new age stuff. I started watching like The Secret. I'm trying to learn about like manifestation, astrology. I'm watching like tarot readings on YouTube. I started doing new moon rituals, and you guys, I still consider myself a Christian. And you know, like there would be certain points where I would, if I was watching a video and they would say something that I knew was like absolute blasphemy, and like I knew that the Bible was said things against these certain practices, but I would still find a way to twist it and just make it work for myself. Or I would just be like, well, you know, it's like I'm not doing XYZ, so it's fine. I'm not doing all that, so like it's fine. Like I still believe in God, so it's fine. That was my mentality in all of this, and I was completely deceived and deluded. Also, I was smoking a lot of weed. I forgot to mention that. So smoking a lot of weed, drinking a lot, popping pills regularly. These practices, these things that I was doing most definitely opened demonic doors in my life. And I have a separate video where I talk just specifically about this. I'm sure you'll see it on my channel somewhere. If you want to get more details on that, you can watch that one. But yeah, just very briefly, I started having sleep paralysis, severe panic attacks. I had never ever had a panic or like anxiety attack in my life, but I started having them frequently, like where I'm hyperventilating, I can't breathe, and they would just like come out of nowhere, and I would feel hopeless and so depressed and anxious. I had never experienced anything like that until I started messing around with this stuff. And I don't care what anybody says, like it's the truth. If you mess around with that kind of stuff, you will open doors to that, and you will experience that. It is very much demonic, and you are very much putting yourself in a bad position. And like that's what happened to me, and I know, and I can say it with my chest because I've experienced it. On top of all that, I felt like a dark presence in my room, and it was specifically like at the foot of my bed near like a corner of my room. The way that I had my room situated was kind of weird, but every morning and every night I would feel this heaviness at like the foot of my bed near a corner of my room, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I also would have this like evil foreboding, like I would always feel like something bad is about to happen every morning when I woke up and every night before I went to bed. And as soon as I got away from all that stuff, it went away. So now I want to talk about like the final shift in my life, and really what turned me in the other direction, and I guess like fully leaning in to Christ rather than just doing whatever I wanted. So I started to feel very heavy conviction, and like so much so that I couldn't push it away. For years I would feel like a little bit of conviction, like maybe I shouldn't do this, but I could just easily like push it to the side and put it out of my head. But it was getting to a point where I could not do that anymore. Also, my life started to fall apart again in a very similar way when I was living in LA and I was losing everything and I was super depressed. Those kind of things started to happen again. I was just so sick of being sad, like sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I'm just wondering like what in the heck is going on. And also like I was reading a lot of new age books, and I started to notice things that just were complete blasphemy, and I was like, well, like what is this? Like there's no, like this is not okay. And that's when light bulbs like started to go off in my head. There was one point too where I was listening to Joyce Meyer, and whatever you feel about Joyce Meyer, respectfully, I don't care. I believe God used her. One of the many things he used was a sermon by Joyce Meyer to shift my perspective. But I was listening to a sermon by Joyce Meyer, and she brought up Romans 6. So very quickly, I'm just gonna go ahead and read Romans 6 for you. This convicted me so heavily. Like, I was literally too stunned to speak when I heard this, because remember, I had not fully read the Bible. I'd read a few Psalms here and there, but I had never actually read what the word said. So Romans 6, what shall we say then? Shall we go on sinning so that grace may increase? By no means. We are those who have died to sin. How can we live in it any longer? Or don't you know that all of us who were baptized into Christ Jesus got baptized into his death? We were therefore buried with him through baptism into death, in order that, just as Christ was raised from the dead through the glory of the Father, we too may live a new life. Yeah, so that verse, and then her whole sermon, she was discussing about living in sin and not continuing to live in sin, and that just like shook me to my core. After that, I started to research things like yoga, because I was doing yoga as well, of course. I started looking into like witchcraft, like what exactly is that? And manifestation, the law of attraction, just like trying to get to the root of these things. And I'd always wondered why. Like, why do Christians go so hard about like yoga? Like, why do they say you can't do yoga? I finally looked into it, and again, it was another moment where my mind was just blown. You know, I started reading up different things, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I've been wrong. I'm the one who was wrong this whole time, and those crazy Christians were right. Now, I ain't gonna lie to you, okay? It took me until 2019. So that was around maybe 2017, 2018 or something. But it wasn't until fall 2019 that I had really hit like the last rock bottom in my life. And I was like, okay, I'm done, completely done. I'm gonna give all of it up, giving all of it away, and I'm actually going to seek Christ and change my life. Look, I even had this crazy, I think I might have mentioned it already in this video. I feel like I need to make a dedicated video to it because it was nuts, okay? You guys, I did acid, okay? I did acid, and I had a crazy supernatural experience with Jesus. And I'm not making it up. I know what I saw, I know what I experienced. I think I need to make a video talking about this. But even after that experience, that was like in 2017, it took me like another 2 years to get with the program. So let's discuss where I'm currently at. I've given up a lot of things, but what I've gained is so much more. I mean, the wisdom and the revelation that God has blessed me with has been incredible. And like, you absolutely can't put a price on it. And like, the way that my perspective has totally changed, it's such a blessing. Like, it is crazy. And if you know, you know. If you don't know yet, I hope and pray that you will, because it's a really, really great place to be, a cool place to be. Sometimes I get frustrated with myself for my past, and I just think, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how could I have been so stupid? I can't believe I did that. Like, that's embarrassing. But I believe that God allowed me to go through all of the very specific things that I did, because there are so many other girls right now who are going through that, and I need to be able to empathize, and I'm glad that I can understand and empathize what they're going through. I believe that he has and he will use me as a tool to help certain girls, or to be even able just to pray for or speak to girls who are going through that situation. And I don't say that to boast and be like, God's gonna use me, guys. It's pretty cool. Like, not at all, because it's not about me. It's about helping other people who are going through those same things, who are trapped in that deception, and being able to speak the truth to them in a way that I kind of wish somebody had spoken to me. And it's kind of crazy, because now, instead of getting blackout drunk and popping pills, I am praying for and with girls who are currently living that kind of lifestyle. And again, I don't say that to brag or to boast, obviously all glory is God's, because apart from him I never could have been able to do that. But it's crazy to think, because if I were to think about who I was and what I was doing back then, and if you would have told me that in the future you were going to be doing this and praying for people instead of you being the one who's like blacked out on the floor, like, I wouldn't have believed you. And now, instead of giving my body away to guys who do not care about me and they don't care about my self-esteem, I am now at a place where I've been celibate for 4 years and my confidence is the highest it's ever been. And I'm at a place where I feel so much more sure about myself and who I am and what I'm worth. And none of that, I don't think, would have been possible had I not gone through those things. So even though, yes, I was double-minded, and yes, I was casual about the Lord, he was patient with me and brought me through a process where I was able to learn so much. And so I guess the whole point of me saying all of this is to tell even just like one of you, if you're in a similar situation to what I went through, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and the Lord loves you and he wants you to come away from the things of the world that trap you. Okay, that kind of life, where the life that like society and media portrays for a woman to be freedom, is not freedom, it's bondage. I was bound, I was tormented, okay? I was miserable, I was lonely, I was depressed, I was confused. New age is not freedom, it's bondage. Promiscuity is not freedom, it's bondage. Rejecting God and doing whatever you want to do is not freedom, it's bondage. So if I can encourage even just one of you to just have an open heart and open mind to the Lord and to seek him, to get a different perspective, to live your life in a better way, then that's what I want. I want to do that, and I hope that I can, and that would be an amazing, amazing blessing. So anyway, I'm gonna shut up now. I'm gonna go before I start crying. But thank you. I know this is probably very long, hopefully not boring, but very long, so I'm gonna go. I plan to make some more videos. I know there's a couple people, a couple of you who have asked me to make more videos, and I'm gonna do it. I have a whole list actually of, I think they're good videos, like some good topics, so I'm gonna do it. But yeah, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this video blessed you, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.